Hello, Aaron.
Hey, Caleb.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are a very busy man at the moment. I'll say I'm very interested to talk to you because you've got so much going on and I'm very eager to talk to you about it. So you have just started up a band. Is that correct?
We've got our first gig. We've been together for a little while now, been rehearsing all of our music and whatnot. So it's all like original stuff. But yeah, we're finally getting our stuff out there.
How'd that come about?
So the guitarist for the band, Nicholas Forrester, started this way back when he was in uni, studied at JMC, and he's had these songs in this band for a little while now, and Amy, the drummer, has been a part of it as well. And it was, I think, 2 years ago, 2019, end of 2019, I did a show with Nick. He was the guitarist, and we just kind of got him on board with this show that we were doing. And we just started chatting about, because I do singing and I do music and other such things. And he was like, you want to join the band that I've got, Space Flamingo? And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Okay, so let's set the stage. So what is the band name and like how many people are involved and like what actually like instruments do you play and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, right. So the band name is Space Flamingo, which, just sounds really, really fun.
I'll say it's a dope name for sure, yeah.
I appreciate the shirt you're wearing.
I was wondering if you would notice. Yes, it's very deliberate I'm wearing this.
Look, you're representing more than I am right now. Actually, no, sorry. I've got stars and space
There
stuff.
you go. That's space related.
Space and flamingo. Perfect.
Mate, see, like that's just how in sync we are.
Oh, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's a 4-piece band at the moment. We've got Nick Forrester on guitar. We've got Amy on drums. We've got Connor on the bass. And then I'm doing synth and vocals. So
Okay. So you're like the lead singer. Okay.
Front man is what it's kind of labeled. I don't really see that as
Are you the only person that sings?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you said Nick was the one that kind of brought this whole thing together.
Yeah.
So how did that sort of conversation start that he was like, all right, you want to come on and do this band, but how did you get all these sort of elements to come together? Because I can assume kind of getting this crew together can be a bit troublesome. Is that what the case?
It's an interesting journey. So when I was brought on, we had Amy, Nick, and another guy on bass.
Okay.
And so we were rehearsing for a little while, going into the start of 2020, and then COVID hit. And,
that damn COVID.
Yeah. And that kind of stuffed around our rehearsals and whatnot. So we weren't rehearsing as much as we used to be. And then our bass player had to end up leaving just because of personal things. And so we had a solid amount of time where we were like, great, we've got no bass player. Got no idea what we're doing. And so we kind of put out a call to the Brisbane music scene and we were like, hey, we need a person. Our music's kind of like Muse and Queens of the Stone Age. It's, psychedelic. And so we got this awesome guy, Connor, and we've been rehearsing with him for a few months now. And yeah, finally out of COVID and also able to like play music with a full band. It's just, it's been really, really good. So getting a bass player was kind of the big issue for a long time.
This tricky point to overcome, okay.
Yeah.
So do you guys like get together at someone's house and then like practice from there? Or do you guys have like a studio that you guys worked in? Or
yeah, so
how does that all work?
So good thing is because Nick went to JMC, we've been able to use their facilities quite a lot. It's been
see, that's really helpful when you have access to the facilities.
Yeah. Really, really helpful on their part. So shout out to JMC for offering us a place to rehearse. But we do our rehearsals every single week and just flesh out what we need to do and what we need to play. We write, we do various different other things. We just had a rehearsal at Nick's place because he's got his own like kind of home studio as well. So it's been a very interesting rehearsal process, I suppose, because we're bouncing between different places, but it's been really, really good and really conducive to getting our stuff together.
Okay, so as a lead vocalist, what is it like trying to collaborate between the various different instruments and stuff? Because I'm obviously not super familiar with how music is put together. My background is obviously in filmmaking, if you might have guessed. But no, I'm really interested because music is something I love music and I love how these different sounds and vocals and how an artist can really bring everything together to really create something that you listen to and how that really creates like an emotional feeling deep within.
Yeah.
So what is your process like working with your fellow collaborators in order to get that together in order to you to create a kick-ass performance?
Yeah, sure. So Nick wrote majority of the songs, and when he wrote them, it was for kind of a uni performance thing. So they had, a set group of people who were doing it, and when he wrote them, they were all for their vocalist at the time.
Okay.
And so that was a very interesting thing to kind of slip into as, the new vocalist, playing along with what was already there and then throwing my own kind of style and spin onto it all. That was an interesting process and something that was really rewarding in the end, because I got to collaborate with Nick quite a bit and really get to the essence of what he was aiming for in the first place. So that was a really awesome experience to have, just because I got to play and be creative and whatnot with him. And then the music's just kind of evolved as we've continued playing together. The band used to have 2 guitars and then drum and bass and whatnot. But now, because I don't play guitar as well as I probably thought I did when I first joined the band, we traded that off with Synthesizer.
Okay.
And that's created a very different energy, a different vibe for
So
for
what
the
exactly
band.
is a synthesizer?
Yes, a synthesizer. So what I do is I plug my keyboard into a computer, and that runs various different patches and whatnot.
So is it like an electric keyboard sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what that have you seen La La Land?
Yes.
Is that the instrument that Ryan Gosling plays in that scene?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
I fucking love that sound then. That's so cool.
It's very, very, very cool. That's a bit more advanced than what I have.
Okay.
So
But you've got that sort of similar instrument than what he used. Okay.
Yeah. So it's that kind of techno electronic kind of sound, and we've utilized that to make it really spacey and very kind of electrified, if that makes sense. Just like,
Well, you mentioned earlier it has something like it's kind of a psychedelic feel as well. So when you said that, what was the kind of the inspiration to make it sort of like that? Is it because of the colors, or is it the sounds, or what kind of gives off that vibe?
Yeah, so psychedelic rock is kind of... rock's got plenty of subgenres and whatnot. And we've taken a lot of inspiration from bands like Queens of the Stone Age, which is like desert rock kind of stuff. And another inspiration was psychedelic porn crumpets, which is very kind of ethereal, very spaced out. It's like if you were to listen to anything like either drunk or high, it's like psychedelic porn crumpets. It's like... So that's the kind of vibe. It's very mellow, very kind of wishy-washy, and it's got that driving force of like constant movement and other such things. So
I see.
That's kind of the vibe that we've added to the sound. Yeah.
What kind of drew you to this? Because I know you have a background in a film degree and an arts degree and stuff, but what was it that drew you specifically towards music? Because when I found out that you were in a band and that you were doing this, I was like surprised. I'm like, Aaron's doing this? That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what was it that kind of drew you towards this?
So I have been playing music for my entire life, piano and whatnot. And so I kind of had this natural progression of playing piano and then learning to play piano and sing. And then I got heavily involved in musical theatre in 2016, I think it was. And from there, I just kind of really started honing in my singing and pushing through that and working out what my voice was doing and how I could use it to tell stories and whatnot. And so that resulted in me doing a bunch of different musicals and whatnot. My highlight was probably We Will Rock You or Heathers.
Yep.
So those were some really, really cool things and really got me involved into that rock kind of singing sound. And then I did some work with this company called Footlights Theatrical. And I ended up being a music director alongside one of my creative partners who was directing the show. And that was just like a rock kind of through the ages gig, right? And so through the process of that, I just, fell in love with playing music on stage and just engaging, and like there is nothing like being on stage playing music and just seeing people enjoy it, right?
Yep.
And so that's what I live for in everything I do. So I guess that's what kind of drew me to the band, right?
Yeah.
It's like I get this opportunity to sing and play the instruments that I love and engage with an audience. And I think, I don't know if you remember this, but like first year we had that
This is first year of uni.
First year of uni. Mm-hmm. We had that session where everyone kind of gathered in and we were like, all getting introduced.
Is this for orientation week?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember this now.
And I think Farah, one of the lecturers, had set up like actors to pretend to be students. I remember.
Yeah, this was really funny. Yeah, it was. Yeah, these actors came in and they just totally sold us.
Yeah.
We were all fooled.
I remember I got up, I like put my hand up. I was like, I want to say why I came to film school. I want to. So I got up on the stage and I was like, so I'm making films because I want to change the world. And like, there was this whole thing where everyone had to pick out who was the fake student, right? And, when you hear someone say, I want to change the world through film, it sounds kind of cheesy and whatnot. But that was genuinely like how I felt. And I think I carry that through.
Well, the ending to that story was that everyone voted you as the fake person.
Correct. Everyone thought I was a faker.
Which was so like, kind of like, it was sad because it was like, because I remember back then I was like, I couldn't remember like why we like, because it was like I was so disorientated when they revealed like there was actors on stage. I'm like, what's going on here? And then like they said, who was the fake person? I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then when everyone voted you because like of what you said, and then you said, no, I'm real. It was like, oh no, that's so, God damn it. But no, I think, that everything you were saying though about creating that effect with an audience, like as fellow artists, like that's something that I feel like is so important, is when you create something and you see people enjoying it, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah.
And whether it's through film, music, paintings, whatever. When you can affect an audience or affect a viewer or affect someone who enjoys your work, that's a really powerful reward.
Yeah. And so that's kind of why I engage with music. It's why I engage with theater. It's why I do film. It's because like I have a genuine passion to change the world. And when I say like change the world, doesn't mean the whole world, but it could be someone's world,
That's a really good point, because another thing with filmmaking and music and any sort of industry within the arts is that there's sort of this corporate like overshadow that kind of goes throughout the industry, right? And there's this kind of mindset that everything has to be make money. We've got to be financially successful. If it's not financially successful, then it's a failure.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things I feel as an artist is to create something that has an emotional impact on people. And sometimes that doesn't have to be a financially successful product. Sometimes you can only reach 100 people, 50 people, sometimes only one person. But if you can affect one person in a meaningful, positive way, sometimes that's worth it. And I feel like that's a very important thing that so many people, especially in Hollywood, lose sight of, is this mindset of like, we need to make sure that whatever we're doing is financially viable and we can do it and it'll be successful so that we can continue to do more of this. But through that process, they lose that edge of like what the true purpose of an artistic vision is.
Yeah.
And that is to create something that we as humans who all love these amazing things that we really want to go out and enjoy. And through that, that's where we get really good art, is through these artists that have something to say. And sometimes they get through it through difficult means, and it's not sometimes an easy road to get there, but when they do and they can finally reach an audience, that's obviously really powerful. Like I look at examples like Ed Sheeran and stuff like that, who when he first started off, he was garbage. He was no good. I'm not sure if you've heard, there's like a video he's like released where it's like when he first started off singing, his voice was, quirky and like it wasn't very good, right? And then through practice and time, and eventually after he got it to a stage where he was happy with it, and obviously he made the right moves within the industry in order to get like realized, he's now one of the most popular, successful, and famous rock stars on this planet.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's a good story because it's like, doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish, right? And through hard work and determination, you can get there. And that's where I find stories like yours really interesting, because it's like, you know, obviously you guys kind of spawned at a really inopportune time when COVID-19 came, and it made things really difficult.
Yeah.
But that might be the thing that kind of is the roadblock that comes in your way, but then might lead you on to future success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the good thing and the thing about COVID was it brought us together, right? Like, I don't know about you, but through majority of that time, you know, it was isolated, right? You felt isolated. And a good thing was we every single week we called up, we made sure everyone was all right.
Did you do like the Zoom meetings and stuff?
Yes, we did. We like had a call every Friday night just being like, hey, how's everyone doing? Are we practicing the music, you know? And it was a really positive thing to have because, you know, it was so quiet for a while, you know?
Well, the biggest thing that I've learnt since this whole pandemic started was that humans require interaction and physical interaction. We're a very relational species, and we really need to have that eye-to-eye contact and that eye-to-eye conversation, and doing it through a screen through these Zoom meetings and whatnot. It's just not the same. I think it's great that we have the technology to do that, but it's just not within our inner biology and our physical makeup. And and obviously here in Australia, we're very, you know, fortunate that we're in this situation where we are able to get back to a relative normalcy within society compared to a lot of places in the world. But like, I just remember when I came out of the lockdowns and stuff, and just seeing my friends again, and being back on campus for uni, and having the ability to make our films again. It was just an experience where it was like, you really realize what you have after you've missed it for so long.
Absolutely. I think, like, coming back to campus, as you said, last year was just like, whoa, like, this is why I do film. Because it's like, you're connecting with people, you're able to make something with people, and being able to do that in person was just like, oh, yes, it satisfies that kind of, that passion and that drive, right? Connecting with people. That's what it's all about.
100%. And I feel so many people lose sight of that because of how the social media landscape has developed in the last couple of years. Obviously, social media has so many pros and so many cons. And I feel like one of the biggest cons is that we're getting so involved within the virtual world that we're losing sight of our connection within the real world. And it really disappoints me to see so many people kind of get lost within the virtual world and lose sight of, you know, our friendships and our connections with family and the workplace and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things that as we evolve as a species, it's just going to be one of those things we have to deal with. But obviously, it's interesting to see how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected everything, because obviously here in Australia, we're at a stage where we can go out, be in spaces where we can not be social distance and have events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, this leads into what you guys are doing with your band and stuff. So you guys actually have an event coming up, correct?
Yeah.
So it's very soon. I think it's the 1st of April, is that correct?
1st of April.
So you just want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So 1st of April at the Tomcat, which is over in Fortitude
Brisbane,
Valley.
Fortitude Valley, right?
Yep. And it's very exciting. We've got the band Benji joining us. They'll be playing just before us. And it's just going to be a really fun night. Tomcat's great. I've been to a couple of gigs there, and it's just a really fun, energetic atmosphere. So, yeah, if you're available, you should definitely come.
100%. I'm so keen for it, yeah. My question is, though, how did you go about getting that venue locked in and stuff like that? What was the process like on kind of getting in there? Because I assume it's pretty hard to get in there, right?
Yeah, so we did up some demos. So that's like kind of bare bones tracks of what we do. And we did that for one of our songs, Los Villanos. And Connor, our bassist, just sent out a bunch of emails to a bunch of different guys he knew, venues and whatnot. And one of the guys over at Tomcat just said, "Yeah, dude, your music's fucking awesome. Let's play."
That's so good.
So it was a really, really cool and lucky, and like shout out to the Tomcat for putting us on, because we've not really played anywhere else.
Is this your first time playing in front of a live audience? Or have you done so previously?
For the full band, first time.
Oh, very exciting. It's almost like your debut sort of thing.
Correct. Don't
want to miss out then, do you?
No, you don't. Nick and I have played an acoustic set, just us, and that was after one of the productions that I did with my production company, Arrow Entertainment. We had like a little improv competition thing, and after the grand finale, we had this like acoustic set, just as like a well done, you get to chill out and relax and listen to some music now. So yeah, that was like the first time, but this is when we've got full synthesizer, the bass, the drums, electric guitars, everything going on. So,
okay, so this is taking place at the Fortitude Valley in Brisbane. What time?
It is 8:30 for Ben G, so their band first, and then I think it's 10:30 for us.
Okay.
That's when we start playing. So
Sweet.
Bit of a late one, but it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
You know.
Now, the next question I wanted to ask you was that obviously you came to film school and stuff. What was the reason that you came to film school? Obviously, you say you've had an interest in the arts and all that type of stuff as you were growing up, but why film school? Why did you want to come and learn about filmmaking?
Yeah, so when I was really young, I wanted to be like a missionary. I wanted to go over to different countries and like spread good word and change people's lives. And then I wanted to be an inventor because I watched Meet the Robinsons and was like,
oh yes,
hell
classic.
yeah.
Classic film.
I want to make a thing that lets you see your memories. And so for a good like 6 or so years, I was like, I'm going to be an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. I'm going to study and I'm going to learn German and I'm going to move to Germany and be an inventor and just make things and change people's lives that way. And then I didn't end up getting into the engineering course at my school because I used to live down in Sydney and
I didn't know that.
Went to a private school down there, and they had like engineering as one of the elective courses, and I didn't end up getting into that, and so I was like, oh, well, what do I do? So I ended up going into photography, and so I was doing photography for a little while, and I'd always been fascinated with making like home movies and stuff like that. I'd get my little Legos and do stop motion.
I did similar things as a kid.
Yeah. And I'd make these little stories where I'd hold the camera and have the item that I was filming there, and I'd go, oh, and the fire's coming down, and oh no, and then make it the childish things as you do. But I'd never really considered taking that further until I did this photography class, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with taking photos and capturing an image, right? And it wasn't until I used a proper film camera, like old style film where you have to develop it yourself, and I was like, wow, like you can make something beautiful and capture it and capture a moment. And shout out to Miss Yock, who is my teacher. You're fucking awesome because you got me onto this trend of capturing things with cameras. And so from there I started getting into more photography and videography, and then I moved up to Brisbane, and I just took all the arts classes in my school, and any time I got the opportunity to, it was always making a film, making something to do with the camera. And so I set my goal to be, I want to make movies. I want to do this for a living. I want to be able to share a moment with people and, make someone's life better. And so that's why I chose to go into film school. It's because I knew what I wanted to do, but it was whether I had the capabilities or the understanding to do it. And so that's kind of why I went into that. I could have gone into theatre as well, because that became a really big part of my late teen kind of time period. But what I found was I didn't have all of the know-how to actually get into the industry and understand what I needed to get into that.
So what about the theatre industry is different to the filmmaking industry?
So I think at a base level, at an amateur level, theatre is a lot easier to get acquainted with and get involved with. Now, from my experiences, because I've worked in the theatre realm as an actor and as a creative, it's much easier to get involved because you go and do a show and then it's like, oh, so you know this person, which means I could connect you with this person. And so it kind of flows on a bit better. Whereas even as someone who's completed film school and, you know, has the know-how, getting into the industry is still really fucking hard.
Yep.
It is like difficult to get into the film industry, and it's difficult to know where you need to be and who you need to talk to. And so I've found that in the theatre realm, there are enough amateur companies out there to engage with where you can actually get involved. But film, I don't really know. Have you had that kind of similar experience with the film industry?
Yeah. So, yes and no. I agree 100% that the film industry is very hard to break into. And we're in a weird moment in time because here in Brisbane, Australia, we have a lot of Hollywood productions coming over here because it's very easy to film over here because we don't have as many social distancing rules and all that type of stuff as compared to Hollywood and all that. But me personally, I have not decided to go into the film industry specifically. Right. I'm actually pursuing a career more in sport broadcasting as a camera operator.
Yeah, nice.
So I've been able to fortunately get on a lot of gigs with that, just doing like rugby league, boxing, all that type of stuff. But I 100% agree. The biggest thing within this industry, and I feel maybe in life as well, is that it's who you know, not what you know.
For sure.
Throughout my time at uni, I studied script writing, directing, a bunch of different things, right? And, you know, the thing I learned is it's very important to build good connections and good relationships with people throughout your time, because I think that'll be far more beneficial for you long term, because you can be an expert in production design or acting or directing and whatnot, but if you don't have those right connections with the right people, you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah. So that's such an important thing that I feel like is so crucial within the film industry, especially because Hollywood is very much so, what's the word? It's very much so, not elitist, but you very much so need to, if you don't, it's very hard to get into like a big, like high position there.
Sure.
You need to do a lot of little jobs and a lot of smaller roles and do a lot of that in order to get recognized, in order to slowly climb your way up the ladder.
For sure.
And from the experiences I've heard of fellow film students and stuff who have made their ways onto Hollywood productions and stuff, that's the kind of things I've been hearing. Is it's very much so you start at the bottom, you know, where you're the fucking weasel of the industry, and you kind of just have to crawl your way up and just, you know, build your relationships from there.
Here's like a recommendation to anyone who's considering going into film school: broaden your scope. Like, go into every single area and just figure out what your niche is, but study everything, because that makes you so much easier to hire.
It's so much better to be versatile as opposed to being pigeonholed into a specific profession.
Definitely. Because when I was here, studied primarily in directing, writing, and production design. Now, two of those are very difficult to get into.
Yep, that's correct.
And one of them, it's still very difficult, but there's more scope and more options.
You're talking about production design,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So production design's in many ways easier because there's more to do, right? But if you try and push yourself as a writer and only a writer, that's your thing, right? A director, only a director, that's your thing.
There's only one person that can do that role.
Yeah. So diversify, I think, is probably a good recommendation.
It's a huge thing. And this is one of the funny things I find about the industry and about people wanting to get into it, is that when you look at the credits at the end of a film, those credits go for a fucking long time, right? There's so many people that contribute to the filmmaking process.
Absolutely.
But most people, the general people, just don't watch credits, but the credits they do see are the director, the screenwriter, the producer, the main ones, right? So they're the ones that most people are familiar with.
Yep.
And through my time at film school, I've heard a lot of people when they first come here, it's like, oh, I want to be a director. I want to be a screenwriter. I want to be this. Like they have this clear set, I want to be this.
Yeah.
And I was similar. I came into film school wanting to be a writer-director. And I realized throughout my time that there's actually so many other things, so many other roles and responsibilities and jobs within this industry that help collaborate to this process in order to get a product made. And I feel like that's such a huge thing, just to bounce off what you said, is just come into, if you're interested in coming into film school or really any profession, just come in with an open mind in order to have just have an open mind in order to make sure that your horizon is broad so that you don't get stuck into a funnel and you're stuck there forever. Because so many people, right, they come out of uni or they come out of school, high school, and they get a job and then that's what they do for the next 40, 50 years of their life.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how the economy and career lifestyles progress moving forward. But I feel like, especially within the arts, within this industry, it's very important to make sure that you are diverse with your abilities so that you can make sure that you can kind of do a bit of everything. And that's why I think everything you're doing is so admirable, because I'm genuinely surprised that you're able to kind of dip your toe in all these areas and find some success with it.
Yeah. So I actually had this conversation with a friend the other day. But they kind of said, what do you do in your life which isn't work? And I'm like, that's a very interesting question, because majority of my time is either dedicated to working on projects that I've got going on or investing time into learning more about what I want to do and where I want to go. I have a production company with my creative partner, and we put on a lot of different things, primarily theatre. We just recently did an interactive experience in association with Escape Manor Brisbane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so what was that production? What was it like?
So we did the creative development and beta test of an experience called Equilibrium, which is like an outdoor escape room experience. We like to title it as game theatre. So you play various different puzzles while you're learning more about this kind of story, and it reveals certain things about certain characters and other such. You go off in different groups and you get...
Is this like a VR thing?
No, this is like in person with actors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we did that with Escape Manor, and it's in the kind of development process at the moment. We'll be releasing pretty soon. But that will, that's not happening in Brisbane at the moment. That's like super new.
I'll say, this is a concept that I'm not super familiar with. So it's a game puzzle that you have to do, and there's a story within it that you have to try and figure out as you're going along.
Yeah, so it starts off, you start at Escape Manor, and then you're sorted into various different groups. There are four teams and 4 paths you can take. And then they tell you their life story. They get you involved. It's about this secret society in Brisbane. And so they, reveal little things about themselves. And these actors, as they're going through, they learn about what's really going on behind closed doors through various puzzles and whatnot. And so as they come to understand what's going on, so does the audience as well. And the audience is encouraged to play the puzzles and, solve the locks and whatnot. So it's
That sounds
Very
really fun.
interesting.
I always
Very
like
interesting.
interactive stuff like that, is because it makes you an active protagonist in a way. You become
Yeah.
part of the story and you're like really living it. That's why, and I mentioned VR because that's one of those things I feel like that's a technology that's really evolving quite rapidly. And I feel like that once that gets to a stage, that's going to allow for so many new types of stories where you can put on a headset, be immersed within this virtual world and kind of go on a story or, you know, be inside a world that you're so unworldly. Have you seen Ready Player One?
I have, yes.
Okay, so the Oasis, right? That kind of concept.
Yeah.
I so desperately want that to happen because
Yeah?
I think that would be so fucking cool. Just to fucking fly around in the Millennium Falcon or drive around in the DeLorean. That'd be so cool. But again, I think that's probably a bit too extreme. But again, if we can get to that stage, I think that'd be so cool. But again, who knows with the advancements technologies are making?
It's true. It's very, very true. I do fear for your dreams though, because if Cyberpunk 2077's anything to go by, it's gonna be glitchy as hell.
Yes.
For a while. But I think that's definitely where things are headed. I even think the film industry is headed in that area as well.
Into VR, you mean?
Into VR, into interactive kind of media, just because it's becoming so available, and
Okay.
that's an interesting thing. I haven't yet seen a full VR film. I'd be interested.
Well, I've heard that there's quite a few productions like that are trying to create this VR movie experience.
Yeah.
Sounds really complicated though, because just obviously getting that done, obviously you need to create a story for that would work within like a way that the audience can kind of have some sort of control over that.
Yeah.
And then just technically, how do you accomplish that? Obviously, it's a very complicated process. I've only heard like whispers from projects that have been doing stuff like that with the technology, but the film industry and just technology in general is advancing so quickly. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the technology that like the Mandalorian and some of those sets have been using with those big OLED screens where they basically just create this world and like it just feels like they're inside this, you know, fantastical landscape, but it's just a screen. I forget what it's called. But yeah, like even that technology is expanding across the world now. I know that they're creating a new studio. I think it's in Sydney. I know they're creating some in the UK and some. I think they're creating like another one in Los Angeles. Like this just started off like as like this small niche thing that the Mandalorian kind of was the spawning point for and kind of revolutionized this part of this technology. But now because it's expanding worldwide, I feel like so many more movies and maybe stuff like this as well will also be utilizing that same type of technology.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make storytelling so much more immersive.
I'm really excited for the future of film because I think we're at the precipice of like something really incredible. The way technology is developed, like CGI was such a big development, and we're at that point, I think, with practical sets and utilizing things like motion capture and whatnot. Like you can capture CG characters in real time now. Like that is mind blowing. Like that we could never have done anything like that ever, and now it's a reality. So I certainly think that the future of films definitely in VR, and not if not VR, in virtual worlds and virtual, you know, simulation kind of stuff. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So with your production company, is that solely what you guys are focusing on? Like what else does your production company do?
Yeah, so our kind of goal with it is to support creative people in whatever ventures they want.
What is it called?
Arrow Entertainment.
Okay.
So its kind of goal is to propel people into the creative field, providing them a platform to you know, make what they want to make and do what they want to do. That's kind of the biggest thing for us. And the reason why we want to do that is because people did that for us, right? People made a way for us to get into the industry, to learn, to, you know, engage with people. So we want to provide that same opportunities to others. We've done this improv festival thing. We've done this interactive experience. We're working on a couple of projects at the moment, so it's a very exciting time to be producing work and getting things made, and yeah, it's a really interesting place to be because you know, being the owner of this company and being able to produce the things that I think will change people's lives and offer entertainment is a really cool position.
Yeah, definitely.
To be in.
Also, one of the big things that I definitely get the vibe from you is you have a very profound voice with regards to you want to create entertainment and you want to focus on performance. And that's one of the big things that I find interesting about you is that you have this kind of fascination with performance, obviously through the movie making process, but also through theater, which is very performance driven, but also with your music as well. Like, what about performance really appeals to you?
I think something that's always appealed to me in regards to performance and putting on a show. It's like right now, if I put on this character and I was just impassioned and, you know, over the top, someone's going to be able to empathize with that and relate to that. If I was meek and mild and, you know, quiet, then someone's going to empathize and someone's going to be able to go, yeah, that's me, that I can see myself in this person. And I think that's something that's so vital to the human experience, is being able to relate to someone and be able to see yourself in someone else, right? I don't know about you, but of all the films that I've watched, like, there is at least someone who I've gone, I aspire to be like that, or I am like that, and look how great they are, or, you know, I could be better than that. For me, performance is all about being able to provide a connection with a person, but also being able to inspire them, whether that be to keep doing what they're doing, be better than who they are, right? And so when I perform on stage, that's what it's all about. It's always about the audience, right? With my band, like, yeah, it's fun. I get to sing and I get to dance around on the stage and, you know, have fun. But ultimately, I'm sharing that with the audience and I'm sharing that with my bandmates and I'm doing that with people, you know. It comes back to what you were saying before, where it's like, yeah, a lot of the human experience is about relationships. And it's about being able to connect, being able to engage. And that's why I think performance is so important. We're performing all the time, right? You walk outside of your home and you put on a show because that's what we do. And I think it's a really interesting psychological thing that, like,
It's just part of the human experience.
It is part of the human experience.
It's fascinating everything you're saying, and I think the mission that you've driven for yourself is really admirable, and I'm really excited to see everything that you are working on transpire, because it's fascinating. One of the things I think is most important for so many people is to have a purpose in life and to be able to find that passion that brings them joy and happiness in life, and do that as their job, as their work, and do that throughout their life. And why I find the arts so brilliant is because people can do that and they can share their human experience with others and hopefully share their own happiness with others. And like I said, I think your mission is really admirable and I'm really excited to see how it goes. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And just to wrap up this podcast, I'm going to share this little story of how we actually kind of officially met.
Oh, yes. Good stuff.
This was because one of the reasons I knew bringing you on the podcast would be really good was because of our very first interaction. We had, I think it was second year of university. We had some class on anyway. Basically,
I think it was directing and acting. I
can't remember. Regardless, whatever the class was, I rocked up and there was no one there. The teacher wasn't there. There was no students there. I'm like, okay, I guess the class is like not on today. I don't think we ever got an explanation as to why.
No, I don't think we did either.
But yeah, I was there, and then you rocked up like a couple minutes later, and then it was just like us two, and we were like confused as to like what's going on, why is no one here? Anyway, so we decided just to chill and see if anyone showed up. No one showed up. It was just us two. Anyway, as a result, we kind of just sat there, chilled out, shot the shit, had a conversation. It went for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it was such a great conversation. And that was my first real time interacting with you, because one of the funny things about film school is you see all these different people, but sometimes your paths don't naturally cross.
Yeah.
And I feel like we were in that situation where our paths never naturally crossed.
No,
but
it was just that one time, that one off chance.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But that one time, I feel like we formed a connection through that human experience and just having a conversation. And I really enjoyed that. And again, now after listening to everything that you've said, not only today, but now obviously seeing everything that you've been working on, again, I'm really excited to see everything you work on. So
thanks, man.
Thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks
just to wrap up, let's remind everyone that the event that you have coming up, April 1st.
Correct.
8:30 is when Benji starts.
Correct.
10:30 is when you guys are on Space
Flamingo.
Space Flamingo, and is at the Fortitude Valley in Brisbane. Get out to Tomcat if you are interested in coming to see these guys live. I can guarantee you it'll be a show for sure, and hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, whether you've been listening to it or watching it on YouTube, I really appreciate you coming in and enjoying this conversation that Aaron and I have had. And I know it's been a very fruitful conversation, and I'm definitely thankful for you for coming on. So for those listening, thank you very much for watching or listening wherever you are around the world. And make sure you are following the podcast link if you are listening on an audio form. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in another time.